Good morning, everybody. How you doing? Now, no need for anxiety, depression, pain. We're supposed to be rejoicing, aren't we? Because this isn't our world. We live in the world, but we're not of it, is what the Bible says, right? And we should be happy when we see these signs happening. That is also in the Bible, that the end is near, that the true kingdom of heaven is close at hand, in a world where there will be no more sorrow and pain and suffering. So we're supposed to be keeping our eyes fixed on heaven, toward the things in the next life. Anytime we start to feel the pressure of the world. There are also verses talking about when you feel pain and suffering and these things happening to you, it's because there is some kind of spiritual battle taking place in heaven, and you have been selected to prove that the devil's world will never work. So always remember that when you're going through stuff. Always remember that. Now I have a few very important headlines for you guys today. Some of these headlines you've already seen. The cloned dire wolves, but I'm going to give you my take on it. But we've also got some breaking and new stories today. States who want to outlaw the smack the nation. Have you guys heard about this? I missed this story, but apparently there are states seeking to ban it. That's great news, of course, but why now? And what kind of things are people going to be able to go back and sue for? Probably nothing, but we'll have that discussion a little bit later in the show. Also, there are some recent sea lion attacks. They're on the rise. Also, a gray whale die-off. And Trump's alleged military parade. So we're going to get into all that today. Military parade for his birthday. Good morning, everybody. Yes, being on YouTube for so long, I've heard a lot of the suffering and pain that many of you have gone through. And it is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to hear what people have to go through in this life. But God always gives us the promise of the next life, right? That is the place that we go when it becomes too much to bear. So that's just some encouragement this morning. If you start feeling down or overwhelmed, all of this information that I share with you is supposed to be uplifting because it shows you the signs of the end times so that you can refocus and go, okay, well, at least we're not one of those people who took the smack the nation. Well, at least we're not one of the people who are invested in the stock market right now. Or at least we're not one of the people who believed, in home values and all these things that are now in the toilet. Or at least we're one of the people who knows the trap of artificial intelligence. So there's a lot to rejoice about as God steers us clear of these traps, steers us clear of the traps that everyone else is falling into every single day. And we see them suffering because of the choices that they're making, and they scratch their head and wonder why. And we want to say, we told you so, but you can't really say that, right? That doesn't even do anything for people anymore when you tell them you told them so. All that does is alienate them further. And you just hope that one day God reaches them and shakes them out of their sleep so that they too can steer clear from the things we've steered clear from so that we're not in pain. Now, let's jump right in, you guys. Let's start with this alleged military parade. Do you guys hear about this? Now, it's crazy because all the headlines are like, oh, Trump's going to throw this huge, birthday bash. Well, as of a couple days ago, the White House is denying that a military parade is scheduled for Trump's birthday. This was as of 2 days ago. I don't know what's happened since then, but this was dated April 7th. The White House is denying reports that it plans to hold a military parade in Washington on President Donald Trump's birthday in June, though local officials have been in contact with the administration about a celebration. Washington Mayor Muriel Bowser and Takis Karatonis, the chair of Virginia's Arlington County Board, on Monday confirmed discussions with administration officials about plans for a military parade this summer. A local newspaper, Washington City paper, reported the parade will be held on June 14th, which happens to be the birthday of both the U.S. Army and Trump. So I think probably what Trump's going to do is throw a celebration for the U.S. Army because that's the birthday of the U.S. Army. And then it will kind of double as his birthday celebration as well, is probably the workaround that they're planning here. Now, whether or not this happens, I think this is a great opportunity to take another look at Trump's birthday, because this is really weird. June 14th, Trump's birthday in leap years, is the 166th day of the year. I think 2016, when he was elected, was a leap year. Let's double check that. Was 2016 a leap year? And it looks like, let's see here. Yes. It's not a leap year. Oh, wait. Friday, let's see. Leap year date. Yes. 2016 was a leap year. So this was the first year that he won the presidency, of course. And so he won in 166th day of the year of his birthday in that year, right? Now, what does all this mean? Well, I'm going to break this down for you. Because June 14th fits squarely into the Gemini matrix. Of course, Trump is a Gemini. And this number 66 is the twin Gemini number. And this might explain why his penthouse is on the 66th floor. And why in this movie, Mickey 17, which was about clones, right? A clone. This released in the US on March 7th, which is the 66th day of the year. There's something to this, isn't there? Now, in the movie Mickey 17, which was about a guy who's cloned over and over again, not only did it release on the 66th day of the year, the character Mickey was essentially the Osiris archetype, broken up into pieces and then reassembled. And maybe the 14 pieces is about DNA. And maybe Osiris was all about cloning. And this begs the question, maybe Trump isn't really a time traveler, but a possessed clone. Now, people ask me, Casey, you believe in time travel? And then I clarified and I said, no, it's really about demons possessing host bodies down through time. Essentially, they're hopping through time. They're kind of immortal, but they have to have new host bodies every time they're cast out of one body into another, or that body dies. They have to go to the next body. They're body hoppers. And we know this because the New Testament tells us that this happens. Jesus, the demon, basically resisted Jesus and said, "It is not yet the appointed time." Jesus then cast him into 2,000 pigs, and the pigs ran over a cliff. So demon possession is time travel. Now, if we think about the aspect of this as it relates to Osiris and the 14 pieces, a picture emerges, doesn't it? Isn't it interesting how Trump won 2 elections? The first one 58 years after 1958, and the second one 66 years after 1958. And that his Trump Towers numbered with 58 and 66 floors, as if he knew he would win 58 years after 58 and 66 years after 58. And check this out. There's an Osiris connection to 66 as well. In ancient Egyptian history, the number 66 is associated with the reign of Ramses II. 66 years he ruled. Now, how is this connected to Osiris? How is Ramses connected to Osiris? Well, I looked it up, and apparently he left his mark at the temple of Seti I in Abydos, dedicated to the god Osiris. And Ramses' deified father, Seti I, appears both as a god and as an avatar of Osiris at Abydos. Wow. So now we have an Osiris clone twin 66 connection. This is how far back this goes, but it goes back further, as we talked about on yesterday's Mickey 17 decode. It actually goes all the way back to the first 6 generations of man, 6 on each side, 6 in Cain's line, 6 in Seth's line, with almost identical names, 66. The first 6 generations of man were pairs. They were pairs or counterparts of one another. Now, I don't claim to know the exact dynamic by which that happened, but why would Cain name his children the same as Seth named his children? It doesn't make any sense unless the two were connected in some way. Now, this isn't just to pick on Trump, because I believe most world rulers are cloned pharaohs. Obama was the one who let the cat out of the bag, so to speak. A lot of people did side-by-sides with, what was it, Akhenaten next to Obama, and they looked almost identical. So we know this is happening. And so this is why I believe this whole Osiris myth being broken up into 14 pieces and reassembled has to do with DNA and cloning, doesn't it? Now, let's get into some of these other headlines today. Now, this was a new one for me. I didn't know this was going on, but apparently multiple states are pushing to ban the Smack the Nation. This was back in February of this year, and this is crazy. This suggests that the governors have received so much pushback from people that they have now been forced to address the situation. Now, for a while, it seemed like the only people that were covering these deaths were like local news stations. We picked a couple of those over the years and showed you how there were local news stations covering personal stories of families that had claimed that their son or daughter had died after getting the Smack of the Nations, but we never ever saw this go mainstream. It was just the local TV stations. Well, all that's going to be wrapped up soon because they're taking control more and more of these local TV stations. So we're not going to ever get real news pretty soon here. I was shocked that they even did the local news stories. Well, now this is mainstream. Now, before we read this, understand that there's not much you can do to go after these people if you feel as though something happened to you after you took the Smack of the Nation. They were very careful to make sure that this was just on the edge of being mandatory. So they didn't quite make it mandatory, but it was so close that there's nothing you can do. So essentially, in order to get this, you had to choose to get it, right? You had to choose. They weren't like going door to door and saying, okay, it's time for your shot. And so this is how they're going to get around any retribution or anyone suing them. And of course, it was also worked into the way that this was delivered. It was in the fine print that you can't come back and sue these people. But let's read about what's happening with the states. Make America Healthy Again panel looking into certain Smack scenes. Lawmakers in Idaho, Montana, and Florida responding to safety concerns. Now, there were safety concerns going all the way back to the beginning when this first rolled out in 2020, but nobody listened. They just wrote it off, said, no, you're crazy. They said, no, these aren't events that are adverse. These are something else. And therefore, more and more people got it. Up to 80% of Americans, so they claim, had at least one. It says here, infectious disease doc compares banning mRNA to banning AI. So this is all about JFK Jr. or RFK Jr., sorry. And then they go in here and explain states considering banning them. In Idaho, lawmakers are considering Senate Bill 1036, known as the Doug Cameron Act, which seeks a 10-year pause on gene therapy. I'm being careful with my words here. To ensure the safety and well-being of Idahoans. The bill, named after an Idaho rancher who claims he became paralyzed in 2021 after taking J&J, On Monday, Idaho's Senate Health and Welfare Committee heard arguments for the bill. Then in Montana, lawmakers considering similar legislation, Bill 371, but it failed after, look at this, 66 representatives voted against it. 66. There's that number again. And then in Florida, State Surgeon General Dr. Joseph A. has urged doctors to stop recommending it. So that's what's going on with the update on certain states considering the banning of this. I think here's another story. Let's check this out. Kentucky, Idaho, Montana, Idaho. Whoops, I already said that. We didn't hear about. Okay, let's read about Kentucky. So this is Kentucky. This is February 14th. Join Montana, Idaho in legislative efforts to prohibit the use of the smack scenes. So I'll put links to this stuff for you guys. Let's check this next story out. Now, cringe alert. If you're queasy about seeing weird stuff, look at this lady's tongue. I don't know why I put this story in here, but it's actually pretty funny. I've never seen a woman with a tongue this long before. This is insane. Let's watch the video here. The world's longest tongue. Are you guys ready? It says she licked the competition.
Might have a creep.
Hold on, let's fix this. You guys can see this. Okay, how long do you think this woman's tongue is? Let's go back into the chat here. Let's get some measurements. You guys, this is insane. Now, in all seriousness, I believe the reason why they show us stuff like this is because it's all about the snake. It's Kali. It's the serpent tongue, right? They'll never tell you that, but that's what it's about. This woman probably had her tongue surgically lengthened, I'm assuming. It's just too long. So let's see, how many inches do you think this thing is? Oh my gosh. 9 inches, says Eric. 10 inches, says Tonette. Okay, let's take a look here. I don't even know how long a standard human tongue is. Let's see here.
Creepy cousin.
Wandering free.
What?
Wish I could be part.
Here we go.
Welcome at the Post. On a beach in England, a couple
Why is it showing us this?
stumble upon a mysterious alien-like creature in the sand.
It had the body of a fish. They had a video of this lady. Oh, let's scroll down. Let's scroll down. She licked the comp. Oh, is this her? Oh my gosh! Look at this. Look at this tongue, you guys. That doesn't even look real. Wow! I thought they had video of it. Her tongue is about. It's probably about 6 or 8 inches. She's like licking grapes out of here. I thought there was a video, but apparently there's not. That's disgusting. Anyway, let's move on. Wow. Now, on a serious note, during the COVID years, we were tracking an uptick in animal attacks. Remember that? That was insane. We were trying to figure out what was going on. And these were species that typically didn't attack people, right? And all of a sudden, it was right after the whole vaccine push that all this started to happen. And we finally came to the conclusion that it likely wasn't the animals that were changing, but the humans. Almost as if the animals lost their fear of humans because humans weren't humans anymore. Wow. That was the only logical conclusion we could come to, because at first we thought it was about these rabies pellets that they were dropping all over the states, which could be a factor in all this. But obviously, a sea lion or an otter wouldn't be exposed to these pellets, right? So it's something in the humans that has changed, right? So I can't make the last connection for you, but you can, based on this discussion of why they changed. But let's try to go back and remember these animal attacks that we covered. There was a fox that attacked a little girl, I think. There was a raccoon attack that literally the raccoon came out of the bushes and would not let go of this. And it was mostly on children, wasn't it? And then there was coyotes running off with children in broad daylight. There were orca attacks, crazed squirrels, otters. Remember cute little otters? They were attacking people on surfboards and things. And now we have sea lions attacking people off the waters of the California coast. Now, the news wants us to believe all this is normal. Let's read it. We'll read about this. But while I'm reading this, if I missed any animal attacks that we covered over the last 5 or 6 years, please put them in the chat. I think I got all of them, but I could be wrong. It says, along some 70 miles of Southern California coastline, usually curious and playful sea lions are attacking humans in the water. The animals are being poisoned by the oceans they live in, experts say. Okay. Yeah, right. Phoebe Beltran, a 15-year-old girl in Long Beach, was swimming on March 30th when a sea lion attacked her right arm. You guys, we've never heard of this happening before. Sharks are the only things that used to bite people, and you might get stung by a jellyfish, but never a sea lion. Let's continue. She said, I was so scared, so shocked, but I still felt the immense pain on my arm, like over and over again. Who was finishing up a 1,000-yard swim during tryouts to become a junior lifeguard. Her arm was covered in bites, bruises, and scratches, but she didn't require stitches. Up the coast in Ventura on March 21st, a surfer near Oxnard was bitten by a sea lion in open water. The attack left him shaken to the core. The sea lion erupted from the water, hurtling toward R.J. Lamandola at top speed. Its expression was feral, almost demonic. I wonder what this guy's status is in terms of what he's been allowed to poke himself with, other than the teeth of a sea lion, if you catch my drift. Devoid of the curiosity or playfulness I'd always associated with sea lions. Lamandola wrote on social media of the harrowing and traumatic experience that included the sea lion stalking him all the way back to the shore. Now, this is what we're seeing, aren't we? We're seeing these animals literally track down people, I think is the common theme. It doesn't just bite and run away like a shark would. Like literally, they follow these people and stalk them and won't let go. And that raccoon video comes to mind, where the raccoon just wouldn't get off and the lady was beating it with a broom or something. So it's interesting that they use this term demonic, right? Because really what's demonic is the person that's changed. Their DNA has been changed somehow, and the animals just aren't recognizing. Look at this. Wow. That's actually not that bad. Zoom in on this. I guess there are some puncture wounds. But sea lions, man, they got some big teeth. Like, literally, they could have ripped chunks off of her. So, I don't know what that's about. Here they're capturing a sick California sea lion with possible domatic acid poisoning. Is rescued to be evaluated in Santa Barbara. Wow. Sea lions. Let's go back into the chat. Did I miss any animal attacks? Let's catch up for a second. Good morning, everybody. Foxes, raccoons, otters, coyotes, orcas, squirrels, sea lions. You guys are still on the tongue thing, or is this catching up? Wow. They are wild animals. Yes, but the phenomenon of them biting people is new. It's been happening since about 2020, 2021. That's a new phenomenon. Coyotes biting kids, Spokane, Washington. Just plays in dirt. Breaching whale onto the boat. Thanks, Sister G. Yeah, I forgot that one. That's kind of new too. Like whales capsizing boats. Absolutely. Lions, tigers, and bears, says Cannons. All right. Now, let's get into these next stories here. Now, the sleep masses are going nuts right now. All excited, thinking this is the cutest thing ever. By now, you guys have all heard they have now resurrected the dire wolf. Now, the dire wolf, of course, is from Game of Thrones. This is where it became popular. What they thought was an extinct animal. And now they have used DNA from, I don't know where they found the DNA. We'll read that in a second. But they have now resurrected the dire wolf. Now, what could possibly go wrong with this? Now, we all saw this coming. The whole Jurassic Park meme, using ancient DNA to rebirth in extinct animals. One day dinosaurs, just like the days of Noah, is what I believe. The Bible says in the last days, it'll be like the days of Noah. And we all know that in the days of Noah, we had giants. We had Nephilim. We had their genetic experiments, which I believe were the actual dinosaurs, most of which were wiped out, except for the ones we see, which are like alligators, crocodiles. And they were destroyed by the flood as God set the balance straight in this world. But this is crazy, you guys. Let's watch this video. It's kind of cute, but you got to understand that these are genetic experiments. So there's two of them. Let's read about this. An announcement straight out of the ancient history or the pages of George Martin novel. A leading genetic company says it has essentially revived the extinct dire wolves from Game of Thrones. Meet Romulus and Remus. Oh, Romulus and Remus. The two, what were they? Dogs suckled by a she-wolf? Romulus and Remus. Wow. 3 young dire wolves being raised in an undisclosed nature preserve that Colossal Biosciences describes as carrying the traits of the long-lost giant canines. So they've genetically modified probably some dogs or something. Let's keep reading. Their successful creation, which had been a closely guarded secret until this week, is the next step in what Colossal has termed its de-extinction project. So what else are they going to cook up, right? Are we going to have dinosaurs running around? Are they going to make a Jurassic Park? I mean, this is literally what they're saying. The company used gene editing to modify the traits of existing animals to the point that their DNA becomes essentially that of the lost animals. So that's exactly what they did. They basically DNA modified a dog or a wolf and turned it into a dire wolf with gene therapy. I wonder what they gave it. I wonder if they... I can't say it. I wonder if it got it, right? Our team took DNA from a 13,000-year-old tooth. See what's happening here? So you got to be careful with, there's a lot of disinformation in the truth community. And you got to be careful. Now, I'm not going to tell you what to believe, but we know that there were large animals. They're actually mentioned in the Bible, behemoths and things like this, Leviathan. And we know that the Nephilim were giants and they would need a lot of meat to eat, wouldn't they? They consumed all the acquisitions of men, says, I think either in the book of Enoch or in the Bible. I think that's in the book of Enoch. And they probably genetically modified some reptiles or whatever the creation was at the time so that they would have things to hunt and eat, right? And then God is like, why else would God need to wipe the earth out? I mean, it said that men's thoughts were evil all the time. That was one reason. And then there was something about a purified genetic bloodline, which Noah was, and God had to set things right. So it's not beyond the possibility, a part of this genetic manipulation, to the point where there wasn't anything pure anymore, could have had to do with dinosaurs. Now, people say, oh, well, the reason why they don't believe in dinosaurs is because, most of what you see in a museum is not real. And that is true. But there's plenty of stuff out there that is actual stuff from before the flood. Now, I don't believe in these huge timelines of millions and millions of years. I walk around my property and I see rocks in all different states of what you call decay. From soft clay to a little bit harder clay to a rock that's very light to solid rocks. And there's this stratification. Now, that shouldn't be on the surface of the ground, should it? That shouldn't be there like that unless it all happened within a very short time frame. So I don't think things are millions and millions of years old. I think what happened is the flood happened, covered everything in water. Some stuff was under pressure, and it turned into rock pretty fast. And it got more dense. And part of that were animals. Now, to prove this, the La Brea tar pits is where they found this tooth, or where most of the direwolves exist. There were 404 direwolf skulls. They're all on display. So obviously these things were around probably before the flood and then were in the tar pit. But they've got all of these 404 direwolf skulls on display. So where did these come from? So this is my personal belief system. I don't want to argue about it, but I do believe there were dinosaurs before the flood. God wiped them out. And in the last days, it will be like the days of Noah, which we're in now. And so they're going to resurrect some of this stuff, right? Which is what they're starting to do now with the dire wolves. And they're going to use the DNA from these that they find in teeth and things like this to do it. Let's keep reading here. It was once said any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Oh, wow, Lamb continued. Today, our team gets to unveil some of the magic they're working on and its broader impact on conservation. Colossal previously created a woolly mouse with the ultimate goal of being the revival of the woolly mammoth. But the new direwolves are a significant step beyond that. Colossal is leaning into the pop culture significance of its invention, including setting up the pups for a photo shoot on Iron Throne from Game of Thrones. Wow. So here's our future, you guys. We're going to have probably Nephilim and dinosaurs and giants. It's going to look like something out of King Kong or some of these other films that they've done in the past. Now, there's been a gray whale die-off. Now, I had to look this up because I wasn't sure how many gray whales are in existence. 17,000, some estimates a little bit lower, 12 to 15,000 is the world population of gray whales. And so anytime you see 80 whales dying at one time, it's of great concern. That's a significant portion of the total population. Gray whales dying off the Pacific coast again, and scientists aren't sure why. 70 whales have perished since the start of the year in the shallow protected lagoons of Mexico's Baja California Peninsula, where the animals have congregated for eons to calf, nurse, and breed. Only 5 mother-calf pairs were identified in Laguna San Ignacio, where most of the wintering whales tend to congregate. That's the lowest number of mother-calf pairs ever observed in the lagoon. Wow, the whales are now headed north. In just the last 2 weeks, 3 gray whales have died in San Francisco Bay, one of which was described by veterinarians and pathologists at the Marine Mammal Center in Sausalito as skinny and malnutritioned. So they're saying that a lot of these whales don't look like they're getting enough food. Probably all the sea lions that have been protected that are attacking people, eating all the food. I don't know what's going on with you guys, but it's pretty insane. 70 to 80 whales dead. Now, if you haven't heard by now, let's get into some of these other stories. The illusion of dissent and conflict continue. They love to do these stories, making us believe that there's infighting going on, that people are opposing Trump. Elon Musk saying now he's now pretty much opposing Trump's tariffs. And this is all fake. He's pretending to disagree with Trump about the tariffs that are destroying the lower middle class, who were barely hanging on to begin with. And if you don't believe me, I don't know if you've tried to buy lumber in the past couple weeks, we're coming into spring. People are starting to work on their spring projects and they're getting sticker shock going in to buy lumber. Lumber is through the roof. Lumber now costs as much as electronics and things. And this is all going to continue to rise. But, Elon Musk is saying, I don't agree with Trump on these tariffs. And this is all just to make you believe that there's some kind of dissent. Now, have you guys seen the price of certain things go up significantly over the past week or two since the tariffs? I'm curious to get your opinion on that before we end with a couple more stories today. Good morning, everybody. There's Roy, David, Marcy. Okay, it's going by too fast. Dudley, Nikki, Bill, Michael, Love Taylor, David, Central Florida. Okay, if I missed your name, apologies. So, what items have you seen go up significantly if you've tried to purchase anything over the last couple weeks? And I'm curious, and then you can help fill everybody else in as well. Yeah, everybody hit the like button. Thank you. Save the whales, right, Crystal? No, it's possible that these whale die-offs are just normal. Like this is how the populations ebb and flow. Who knows? I thought it was a story of note. Okay. What does it say here? That is from price gouging. Jamie says, I've heard. I have pics of 2 all-white, large-looking bulls in Mount Berger, Arkansas from 3 years ago. I was taking pics and they were stalking me in the middle of nowhere. Wow, that's interesting, Jesse May. Gas prices going back up in California. My friend makes birdhouses, and he said it's insane, talking about the lumber. Cost our fortune for a steak. Yes. Heck, I don't even eat steak. And the last time I went and bought steak, it was almost $14 for one ribeye steak. I'm like, I can't. What do you do? Right? Costco had lamb roast with regular $5.99 a pound, but also had mini marked at $15.99, imported from Australia. Meat prices through the roof. Milk. Still have water from Fukushima, says Eric, which could account for the whale die-offs. Jesse has the pics. Cool. Where can everybody go see the pictures of these wolves, Jesse? Do you have like a Facebook? You could go ahead and name your Facebook or wherever you have the pictures. Orca on the back of all the things you see in the sound. Never forget a sight. Elon Musk is Nicola Carpathia left behind series, says Star Drive Paintings. Gas prices up in Texas. Wow. Very interesting. All right, you guys, let's finish up with this last couple stories here. What is this here? Oh, so check this out. Apparently, Trump is thinking about doing drone strikes on the Mexican cartels, and the Mexican president's like, no, you're not. Now, what this is, I believe, is an escalation that we already anticipated, right? That this would happen. These are training exercises for what America will look like one day. I mean, this would be the closest drone strikes, if this happened, closest to America that has ever happened before. And you can imagine that some of these drone strikes are going to happen on our own soil as they track these cartels over across our border. Let's read this. Well, let's watch this video. This is NBC News. Okay, let's play this. Let's give us a little bit of information on what they're talking about.
Federal drug enforcement agents seizing smuggled fentanyl in the epicenter of America's opioid crisis.
Wow, they like hide it in tires of cars. Like, how do you even find this stuff? This is insane.
U.S. officials fighting the drug war say 60% of all the fentanyl entering the United States comes through the Phoenix area.
We see it in the mail, tunnels, catapults, drones, anything that you can imagine.
Catapult? Wow, this is insane. Can you imagine? In Phoenix. So for those of you who live in Phoenix, be careful. I mean, there could be fentanyl in your mailbox, and this stuff is so toxic, you touch it and you can die.
Although the CDC says overdose deaths dropped 24% from their high, tens of thousands of Americans are still dying each year from opioids. The DEA has seized more than 125 million pills containing fentanyl just here in the Phoenix division since 2016, and some of that is here in this room. Officials here tell us that under the Trump administration, they've been empowered to go harder after the Mexican cartels that import and sell these deadly drugs. President Trump designated key Mexican cartels as terrorist organizations. Officials say the CIA and the military have dramatically stepped up intelligence.
Now, don't get me wrong. This is good that we're going after these people. Okay. My worry is this will transition or segue into the erosion of our rights, because once you deem someone a terrorist, that means we can track them down on our own soil by any means necessary. All their rights go away, and anybody that's around them, any collateral damage, right? We all saw it. We all saw it in Gaza. Let's say a cartel has, hostages, and they're on our soil. That could be the first case of the suspension of American rights to go after a terrorist on our soil. They could like drone strike them or something, and then a bunch of Americans die. Oh, that's collateral damage, right? I mean, there's endless scenarios. So things have changed, haven't they? This is different than before, is what I'm trying to get you to understand. How Americans are dealt with, this whole notion of embedded terrorists on our soil is a brand new phenomenon that they really haven't talked about before. Before, they would go after these people, like after 9/11, they would go after these people, but there was never like a huge group of them or standoffs. So they would just pick off certain people and they would say, oh yeah, we busted up a terrorist organization. But there were no discussions about, deeming these people on our soil as like terrorists that are on our soil that we're having to deal with. Not to the extent that we've had now. So this is new, you guys. This is new. And they're taking lethal action. Drone strikes. It won't be too much longer before the drone strikes over Mexico then happen over the border and then on our soil, is what I'm trying to get you to understand here. So we need to be watchdogs about this. We can't allow that to happen, because it won't take much more to transition that into American rights and freedoms.
It's gathering in Mexico.
Mexico is going to be penalized. They're not going to come through Mexico anymore.
And these efforts appear to be working. Last month, Mexico handed over 29 alleged cartel figures to the U.S., including a drug lord convicted of ordering the murder of a DEA agent in the 1980s.
The gloves are off?
The gloves are off. This is our drug vault. And
Still, enforcement alone can't stop the flow of drugs entirely.
We have a couple 100 pounds of methamphetamine, about 1.3 million fentanyl pills.
1 week in Phoenix.
This is 1 week in Phoenix.
The DEA is deploying new mobile labs used to analyze seized drugs quickly.
We're seeing this stuff as it comes directly in, so we get to see what precursors they're using, what materials are they mixing it with.
As the Trump administration debates whether to take military action against the cartels, law enforcement officials tell us their intelligence suggests the drug lords are on their heels.
I think in a few months, we're going to start seeing really the rewards from our efforts.
Hopeful signs in a struggle that has ravaged America. Ken Delanian, NBC News.
And what are you guys' thoughts on all this? I personally believe both governments are in on this. We've had the precedent for this. Presidents pretending to fight something that they're actually making money on or doing themselves. the whole Reagan years and all that. They were literally caught trafficking their own drugs during those years. And if you think the Mexican president has no idea where this fentanyl is coming from, you're probably mistaken as well. She's probably getting a kickback as well. And so let me go back into the chat and see what your guys' thoughts are on all of this. Pretty wild, right? Okay. A fentanyl trebuchet, right? You guys are funny. Talk about Game of Thrones. Opium wars have always been deployed for depopulation and demoralization. I agree with you. Love Cat. Yes, getting rid of consumers. I believe it's population control. National Guard used to help Albuquerque, Popo, drones, and all. Wow. Hundreds of millions would be noticeable even from US, I think, but who knows? Can't implement CBDC if the US dollar holds reserve currency status. All right. Okay, you guys, I'm going to pop off of here. Thanks for showing up this morning. We'll likely be live tomorrow. I don't have a show scheduled or planned yet, but you know how it goes. There's always something to cover. We might do a re-upload. I might get into The Handmaid's Tale. I've got a couple of TV shows on deck. Black Mirror apparently released a couple days ago. So if there's any episodes of that that I can decode, I may do that for tomorrow's show. Handmaid's Tale, The Last of Us is going to start soon. Andor, the Star Wars TV series, get into that a little bit later in the next couple months. The Accountant 2. And then, of course, Superman. So that's what's on deck over the next several months for things that I'll be decoding. And, of course, I'm always open to decoding things that you guys recommend or suggest in the comments section. So, thanks, everybody, for showing up. And I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Much love. Take care, everybody.